They told you every car battery dies in 2 years. That's just how it is. Yet in 2017, a retired London mechanic proved his decade-old battery still held full charge, stunning engineers who once laughed at him. What daily ritual kept that battery alive when others failed? Let's uncover it. 10. Clean battery terminals every 3 months. Every year, millions of car owners replace batteries that still have years left in them. The shocking part? Over 80% of those batteries are perfectly healthy, just silenced by a layer of corrosion. Think about that for a moment. Perfectly good energy, blocked by a few millimeters of grime. When you lift your hood and see that white or green crust around your battery posts, you're looking at lead sulfate, a chemical born from acid vapor and oxidation. It behaves like cholesterol in arteries, blocking the current, choking performance, and forcing your alternator to work twice as hard. That slow strain doesn't just drain the battery, it shortens the life of your entire electrical system. Yet the fix is astonishingly simple. Mechanics in the 1970s already knew this trick. Mix 2 tablespoons of baking soda in warm water, disconnect the negative cable first, and pour the solution gently over the terminals. The fizz you see is chemistry at work, the acid neutralizing before your eyes. Scrub it with an old toothbrush until the metal shines like a mirror. Dry it completely and reconnect, starting with the red, positive terminal. This 10-minute ritual, repeated every 90 days, can double or triple your battery's lifespan. It's the cheapest insurance policy you'll ever own, but cleaning alone is only the beginning. The next secret goes deeper, hidden inside the battery itself, where a forgotten liquid quietly decides whether it lives for 2 years or 10. 9. Check electrolyte levels monthly. In every old garage, there used to be a ritual. A mechanic would lift the battery caps, peek inside with a flashlight, and say, "Still breathing." That habit, simple, quiet, forgotten, decided whether a battery lived 2 years or 14. By the late 1980s, sealed, maintenance-free batteries took over the market. They sounded modern, effortless, automatic. People stopped checking the electrolyte, the clear, acidic mix that keeps those lead plates alive. Yet the chemistry never changed. Heat still evaporates liquid. Air still scars exposed plates. And once those plates touch oxygen, the damage begins in hours, not weeks. Subaru once released internal data in 2012 showing that cars driven daily in warm climates lost up to 15% of their electrolyte every year. The result? Weak starts, dead cells, and expensive replacements that could have been prevented with a teaspoon of distilled water. Here's the truth every old-school mechanic knew. Open the caps if your battery allows it. Shine a light inside. The plates should sit completely under the liquid. If they peak above, the countdown has begun. Top it off with distilled water only, never tap water. Tap water carries minerals that react with acid and corrode the internal grid, something even premium batteries cannot survive. One London taxi driver, George R., kept his 2006 Toyota battery alive for 14 years this way. His secret? Just water and patience. But what if the biggest killer of batteries isn't inside at all? What if it's something outside, invisible and rising with every degree of heat we face each summer? 8. Create a thermal shield. Most people think winter kills batteries. Mechanics smile at that idea. The real killer isn't the cold, it's heat. Extreme, relentless, invisible heat. Every degree counts. Studies from the Battery Council International in 2019 found that a 10 degrees Celsius rise above normal temperature can cut a battery's life in half. That means a unit built to survive 8 years in Scotland can die in just 2 summers in Spain. It's a quiet disaster. The lead plates inside warp, the electrolyte evaporates, and resistance builds until one morning your car refuses to start. By the early 2000s, cities like Phoenix and Dubai were already documenting record failure rates, up to 3 times higher than colder regions. Taxi fleets lost thousands each year, all because no one thought to shield the battery from engine heat. Using basic insulation foam and aluminum foil, they began wrapping their batteries, homemade armor against the sun. The aluminum reflected the radiant heat, and the foam stabilized internal temperatures. Tests in Texas showed a 15 degrees Celsius drop in average battery temperature under identical driving conditions. That tiny difference multiplied lifespan by 3. It takes 15 minutes, costs less than 10 pounds, and changes everything. Imagine spending a decade driving the same car with the same battery, simply because you gave it shade. Yet heat is just one threat. There's another quieter one, something that drains power even while your car sleeps. And the next story reveals how a simple oversight can kill a battery overnight. 7. Disconnect battery during long inactivity. Every car owner has lived this story once. You leave town for a few weeks, return, turn the key, and nothing. Silence. The car feels dead, but the truth is far stranger. When a vehicle sits parked, energy keeps flowing. Modern cars have what mechanics call electrical vampires. They never sleep. The clock keeps ticking, the alarm stays armed, the computer memory runs quietly in the background. It sounds harmless, yet those tiny currents add up. In a month, they can pull enough charge to kill a healthy battery. A real case made headlines in 2023 in Birmingham. A woman named Linda Smith left her car untouched during a 2-month trip to Canada. Her 3-year-old battery collapsed entirely. Mechanics found nothing wrong with the alternator or wiring. The drain alone had done it. She spent 180 pounds on a new battery, all because she skipped one simple step. Before a long break, always disconnect the negative terminal, the black cable marked with a minus. Loosen it, lift it free, and keep it from touching metal. That single move breaks the circuit and freezes time for your battery. When you return, reconnect it. Positive first, negative last, and the car wakes instantly. Fleet operators have practiced this since the 1950s. They knew that a battery left connected while idle dies quietly from self-discharge, but one habit prevents it completely. Still, there's another threat that hides in plain sight, one that attacks even while the engine runs. It involves your battery's heartbeat, measured in volts, and it reveals more than most drivers realize. 6. Maintain voltage between 12.4 and 12.7 volts. Every battery has a heartbeat. You just can't hear it. But mechanics do. They read it in numbers, 12.4 to 12.7 volts. The perfect rhythm of a living battery. Anything outside that range means stress, fatigue, or silent decay beginning deep inside. Here's how they discovered it. In 1968, Bosch engineers tested over 10,000 car batteries across different climates in Europe. They noticed something striking. Batteries that stayed within that small voltage window outlived others by up to 5 years. It wasn't luck, it was chemistry. Below 12.4 volts, sulfur crystals start forming on the lead plates, a process called sulfation. Once those crystals harden, they block the current like plaque in an artery. The engine still starts for a while, but each crank weakens it further. Above 13 volts with the engine off, another danger appears: overcharging. That boils the electrolyte and warps the plates. Both paths lead to the same end: death by imbalance. Checking your battery's voltage takes 2 minutes. A $15 multimeter is enough. Turn off the engine for an hour, then test the terminals. Healthy voltage? You're safe, low or high. It's a warning that can save hundreds later. Fleet companies in Japan made it a monthly rule in the 1990s, and their average battery life doubled to 8 years. But what happens when that healthy voltage collapses completely? When the charge plunges below the survival line? The next story exposes the one mistake that kills more batteries than any other. And the number behind it will surprise you. 5. Never let charge drop below 50%. Think of your battery as a heart. Once it flatlines, recovery is rare. A deep discharge doesn't just empty the cells, it scars them. And that damage, once done, never heals. Here's the hard number. When voltage drops below 12.2 volts, the charge slips under 50%. That's when trouble starts. Inside, lead sulfate crystals harden on the plates. At first, you can recharge and move on, but each deep discharge leaves behind a permanent layer. After 3 or 4 times, capacity falls sharply, and no charger can bring it back. Back in 2015, a British RAC study found that more than 60% of roadside callouts in winter were caused by batteries drained below this line. Mechanics could recharge them, sure, but most failed again within months. Deep discharge is like a heart attack for your car. Some survive, few recover. There are warning signs long before the collapse. Headlights dim when idling. The horn sounds weak. The starter motor hesitates. Those are your early alarms. Checking the voltage monthly with a small digital multimeter keeps you one step ahead. Many professionals say that habit alone adds 3 to 5 years to a battery's life. In garages across Germany, fleet cars undergo weekly voltage logs. It's routine there, and their batteries often last a decade. But what if there was a way to reverse the early damage, to actually heal the plates and recover lost strength? That idea led to one of the most fascinating innovations in modern car care, one that started in racing pits and spread to home garages worldwide. 4. Use a smart charger monthly. Few people realize that the same secret that keeps race cars alive through grueling seasons can double the life of an everyday car battery. It's called maintenance charging, and it's one of the simplest habits most drivers never learn. Back in 1996, engineers from the Williams Formula One team revealed that their car batteries, used in extreme temperature swings and brutal engine cycles, lasted up to 7 years. Their secret? Smart chargers running in float mode whenever the cars were idle. That quiet routine prevented chemical decay long before it could start. A smart charger doesn't just fill a battery, it listens. It senses when to stop, when to pulse, when to rest. It dissolves early sulfate crystals before they harden and balance the cells gently, the way a doctor stabilizes a patient's heartbeat. You can buy one today for under $100, and it could save you thousands over a decade. For drivers who mostly make short city trips, where alternators barely get time to recharge fully, this practice is a game changer. Plug it in overnight once a month, and it restores the internal chemistry that traffic and idling slowly ruin. Fleet operators in Germany adopted this after a 2008 study showed that float charging reduced failure rates by 72% in winter fleets. The math spoke for itself, but even the smartest charger can't save a battery strangled by poor mechanics. There's another overlooked system, small, mechanical, and cheap, that quietly decides whether your battery breathes or suffocates, and most car owners never think to check it until it's too late. 3. Check alternator belt tension. Every battery has a partner that keeps it alive, the alternator. It's the part that recharges the battery while you drive, turning motion into current. But there's one small detail that decides whether that partnership thrives or fails. The belt. You see, the alternator belt is like the breath of the system. Too loose and the alternator slips. Too tight and it strains its bearings. Either way, the battery suffers. In 2012, a German auto study found that over 40% of battery failures came not from weak chemistry, but from poor belt tension. A simple mechanical fault that goes unnoticed until the day your car refuses to start. Mechanics still use the thumb test. Press down firmly midway between 2 pulleys. If it dips by about 1.5 centimeters, that's perfect. More and it's too loose less, and it's over-tightened. Adjusting it takes minutes, but the impact lasts years. Think about it. A slipping belt undercharges the battery every drive, leaving it weaker each morning. A belt that's too tight destroys alternator bearings in under 6 months, leading to expensive repairs that most mistake for battery failure. Professional garages in Japan began mandatory quarterly checks after Honda's 2009 recall. When misaligned belts caused widespread charging issues, Since then, belt tension monitoring has become standard in high-mileage fleets. So if your battery dies early, the cause may not lie inside it at all. It may be this overlooked strip of rubber. And what happens when even a neglected, half-dead battery can be brought back to life, recovering up to 90% of its lost capacity. The next story reveals that method. 2. Revive batteries with controlled charging cycles. Every mechanic has that one story. The battery everyone swore was finished. Dead, gone, beyond saving. Yet a few hours later, it hums again like new how? Controlled charging cycles, the quiet miracle most drivers never hear about. In 2017, a small independent garage in Birmingham documented 27 dead batteries brought back to life. The process was simple but patient. Charge, rest, recharge. 3 slow pulses of energy that dissolved years of crystal buildup inside. By the end, 24 of those 27 worked like fresh installs. Numbers that challenged every battery salesman's claim about lifespan limits. Here's what actually happens. When a battery sits undercharged, hard sulfate crystals grow on the lead plates. They choke energy flow like plaque in arteries. Controlled charging breaks them down layer by layer. A slow 2-amp current for 2 hours, rest for another 2, then repeat. It's chemistry meeting rhythm. Deliberate, calm, effective. Fleet mechanics in Sweden have used this method for over a decade. Their data shows up to 90% capacity recovery on units under 5 years old. It's the difference between scrapping and saving, between waste and wisdom. The best part? Anyone with a smart charger and patience can do it at home. It's not magic, it's maintenance done right. Yet even the healthiest battery can fail if its terminals corrode again. And here's where a penny-sized trick, used by rally teams since the 1980s, protects thousands of dollars worth of equipment with one swipe. 1. Protect terminals with petroleum jelly. Sometimes the smartest solutions hide in plain sight. This one costs less than a cup of coffee, yet it can save hundreds over the years. A simple swipe of petroleum jelly, something your grandparents probably kept in the glove box, can decide whether your car starts on a freezing morning or stays dead silent. In the 1980s, British rally mechanics used this exact method before every event. They learned through harsh experience that corrosion, not cold, was the real enemy. That white-green crust on terminals, what most people call battery salt, isn't just ugly, it's resistance. It blocks current flow, forcing the starter to strain harder, burning through charge faster. Petroleum jelly, or dielectric grease if you want the technical term, creates a thin, invisible shield. It seals out air and moisture. The current keeps flowing freely even through winter storms, or ocean air tests from Auto Express in 2009 showed batteries treated this way maintained 20% stronger starting performance after a year compared to untreated ones. The process takes 5 minutes. Clean the terminals until they shine, then coat them with a thin layer of jelly before reconnecting the cables. It's almost ceremonial, a final layer of protection for everything you've maintained. In fleet studies from Texas, 2018, vehicles using this method reported 0 terminal corrosion after 4 years of service. The cost? About 10 pence per car. And here's the curious twist. This same technique used on remote generators and aircraft since the 1960s inspired a controversial experiment in EV battery terminals. Could this old-school hack influence the next generation of electric cars? If you thought car batteries died young, think again. The next video reveals the single move that revives a dead battery in minutes. Click now before the truth fades away.